Hello students. In the last video you learned a number of different methods for adding integers, for adding positive and negative numbers plus zero. So in this video we'll teach you how to think about and how to subtract integers. Okay, now what I'd like you to do first is have a look at these 5 questions and see if you can just reason out what the answer is. So stop the video, have a think about it, and then restart the video and we'll go through them. Okay, let's see how you went with your reasoning. The first one is pretty obvious. 12 subtract 5. You've been doing those types of questions for years. So you've got $12, you lose $5. You now have $7. Now with the next one, because in the first question you're subtracting 5 and in the second question you're subtracting negative 5, the first thing you need to think is, well, the answer can't be the same. You can't take away 5 and take away negative 5 and get the same answer. So I like to think of this one as I have $12, so you have $12, and you're giving me a bill for $5. And once I pay that, you're actually $5 better off. Or another way to think about it, taking away 5 and taking away negative 5 are opposite operations. So if one of those leaves you $5 worse off, the other one should leave you $5 better off. Here you're starting with a debt of $12. You've got to basically pay $5 or give away $5. Now you're $17 in debt. And with the last one, you're $12 in debt. You give a bill to somebody for $5, and once they pay it, you're actually better off. So now you're only $7 in debt. So let's have a look at that on the next slide. So here's how I think of one way to think of subtracting. Let me just change my pen. Okay, so 12 minus 5, you have $12, you give me $5, you've got $7 remaining. Here you have $12, you give me a bill for $5, so subtracting negative 5 is giving somebody a bill, which means you're actually $5 better off once the bill is paid, so now you have $17. Here you're $12 in debt, you give me $5, you're now $17 in debt, and finally you're in debt for $12. You give me a bill for $5, and that means once I've paid that, you're better off by $5. So now you're only $7 in debt. So thinking of money is a good way to think about subtracting integers. Now, a lot of students like to work with number lines. So let's do subtracting a positive number. So 3 minus 4, I start on 3. Subtracting 4 means I'm going to have to go to the left by 4 on the number line, and the answer's negative 1. So what would subtracting a negative look like on a number line? Well, once again, I start at 3. The first number is always where you start. And if I'm subtracting a negative, once again, it has to go in the opposite direction to subtracting a positive. So when you see subtracting a negative, you go to the right 4 units, and that gives you 7. So 3 minus 4 is negative 1. 3 subtract negative 4 is positive 7. Okay, now one thing you want to notice from things we have just done is 12 take negative 5 gives 17, because taking away a debt is the same as getting $5, and 12 plus 5 is 17. So anytime you're subtracting a negative, you can think of it as being the same as adding the positive. In money terms, taking away a debt of $5 and being given $5 has the same outcome. You're going to be $5 better off. Similarly, subtracting a positive, like 12 minus 5 equals 7, is the same as adding a negative 5, because that basically means you have $12 and you're giving me $5. So now you only have, so you're taking away, excuse me, you're losing $5, giving me $5, and now you only have $7. So another way to think about subtracting is every subtraction can be rewritten as an addition. First number stays the same because that's how much you start with, which is the same in each case. But subtracting 5 is the same as adding the opposite. Subtracting -5 is the same as adding the opposite. So every subtraction can be turned into an addition. So here's what I would think you should do when you're asked to subtract an integer. Okay, the first thing you do is just use your number sense, or maybe use a number line in your head, because sometimes these questions are actually quite easy, and if you just use your number sense, you can just write the answer down immediately. But if you get a bit stuck on that, here's a way you can do it that will always work. As we showed in the last slide, you can turn every subtraction into an addition. But if you do that, you have to change the sign of the second number. So if you're subtracting a positive, you change it into adding a negative. If you're subtracting a negative, you change it into adding a positive. And then you just add the numbers as you learned in the previous video. So let's go ahead and try that on a few questions. So with these 6 questions here, what I'd like you to do is to try to answer them. First, use your number sense. Maybe you're thinking of a number line, or thinking of money, or just sometimes you might just think, I know what the answer is. But if that doesn't work, then use the method that I discussed on the last slide, which is keep the first number the same. That's your starting number. Change subtraction to adding, and change the sign of the second number, and then add. So the first one's pretty straightforward. 8 minus 1 is 7. You've done that before. You've got $8. You lose $1, you only have $7. So you spend $1, you now only have $7. Now 6 subtract -3. Again, using your number sense, you can think, well, I'm going to take away a bill of $3. It means I'm going to be $3 better off, and that gives me $9. Or you can change every subtraction to add, every number to its opposite, and you get the same as 6 plus 3, which is obviously equal to 9. Okay, stop the video, have a go at the next 4, and check your answers once you've finished. Okay, welcome back, students. Let's see how you went on these next 4 questions. So, -5 subtract -1. You can think, well, again, subtracting a debt is the same as earning $1. So that's really the same as -5 plus 1, and that's -4. You're at -5 on a number line. You move 1 to the right, you're at -4. 3 take away 6. Well, I always think of these, if I'm taking a bigger number away from a smaller number, I'm going to end up in the negatives. So to me, I can just think of that one using my number sense and just get -3, or change it to add the negative. I've got $3 in one pocket, a bill for $6 in the other pocket. Therefore, when I pay off part of the bill, I still owe $3. Similarly, I can think of this one. I'm at -3 on a number line. I've got to go back 5. That puts me at -8. Or change that to add the negative. If I add 2 bills together, I just get a bigger bill. So therefore, I get -8. And the last one's the trickiest one because it's got 2 negatives and a subtraction, so it looks a little bit tricky. So I'm $7 in debt. I'm going to basically give you a bill for $2, which means I'm going to be $2 better off once you pay the bill. So that means that equals -5. Or by using our method, first number stays the same, change the sign, change the sign. I've got a bill for $7 in one pocket. I've got $2 in the other pocket. I mean, I can pay off part of the bill, but I still owe $5. So subtracting integers is definitely the trickiest of the 4 operations. So hop into your textbook and practice, practice, practice is the secret now until you can get these things quickly and accurately. Okay, In the next video, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, we'll be looking at multiplying integers.